This is the Between Shadow Society Part 11. Today we begin the mastermind threat. So there's kind of nothing to recap in terms of threats because all the threats are resolved. We're going to be eventually moving into the mastermind threat. I do want to give you all a chance to have scenes before we start the mastermind threat, because once we start the mastermind threat, you're locked into it until it's over. There's like kind of no getting away from it. So if there are any like vulnerable move scenes you want to have, if there are any like anything in the city you want to do, like it needs to happen like now, because once the mastermind threat starts, you're well locked into it, and it's not in London. So those are things to consider. I know that Mads and I had been chatting about custom moves for the mother and sort of wanting to have a scene introducing the child to Pope and possibly to Sure Shot, I think, as well. And so that is something that I think we're maybe going to do, Mads. Is that correct? Indeed. So yeah, so we're not going to be operating in day phase or night phase or dawn phase for this. So this is just scenes as if we were playing a regular role-playing game. And so if you have any scenes that you do want to have, let's go ahead and talk about them now. We'll get them framed up and get them going before we start facing off against Theodora. So who has an idea?
I wouldn't mind doing a vulnerable scene with Pope.
Very good. Would you like to frame that up? What does it look like?
I think this is the morning after Blakely spent the night at Brathwaite Hall. And it'll probably, oh, thank you, sweetie. Okay, sorry about that. I think that what will happen is Blakely will come in, get freshened up, wait for Pope to finish up all the stuff he does for Dr. Noble. And then she'll probably just corner him in a hallway somewhere.
Sounds good. Pope, you're cornered.
Oh, Pope, I do have to talk to you. It's really quite urgent. Would you mind joining me up in my rooms, please? And she just waltzes off.
Of course. Can I bring some coffee or?
Well, if you wish, doesn't matter to me.
Very well. I think Pope will just take that hint and follow her up.
And Miss Blakely has rooms. She doesn't have one room in this house. There's a sitting room, there's her interesting implements room, there's her bedroom. So she's just going to basically drag Pope into the sitting room. Oh, please do sit. And there's just one little, like, small love seat style couch.
Thank you, Mom.
And she sits down very uncomfortably close. Pope, I do have some fairly dreadful news. I've just been to Brathwaite Hall, you see, and I am under the impression that Theodora Brathwaite is, in fact, plotting against us in some way. You see, every time we've gone out to do investigations, she seems to show up, and she's quite constantly interfering in my own personal matters. And I just don't know what to do. And you're always so calm and composed and, well, really quite loyal. I thought that perhaps you would have some ideas.
I'd noticed she has been seemingly involved in our affairs to an uncomfortable extent. Perhaps we should, perhaps the time has come for us to confront her.
Well, I do believe that she will be inviting us over to her manor in some form fairly soon. Maybe we should take her up on that when it happens.
If we do, I think we need to be extremely careful.
Oh, I knew that you would have some sort of rational solution because you are just that sort of man, I can tell. You know, Dr. Noble really is quite lucky. I've noticed in the past little while that the people I thought loyal to me were in fact not as loyal as I expected. But you, so steadfast in your loyalty, just so calm and collected, and she puts her hand on Pope's arm, and dare I say handsome. You really are quite the catch for Dr. Noble.
She's a remarkable woman and has earned my loyalty.
Oh, if only the rest of us could be so lucky. If only even I could have just a little piece of that kind of loyalty. You know, Pope, you're a betting man, aren't you?
I've been known to take a flutter from time to time, yes.
Well, I dare say. I bet if you join me in my bedchamber for the rest of the morning, you would definitely have the time of your life.
Well,
do you have a counter bet?
I'm not sure that's the type of bet I normally take, Mom. Normally, I'm more of an expert on sporting matters.
Well, I could dare say this would be a sport.
Indeed, but I fear I have many duties to attend to.
Yes, I suppose Dr. Noble is a very demanding sort of mistress.
And her work is at a very sensitive stage at the moment.
Yes, quite. Well, thank you for the chat.
I will interject here briefly to say that the vulnerable move is triggered. It is Pope's option. Pope, you there are no clues to get right now, so all you can really do is invite Miss Blakely to ask you a question about the past.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
I think Blakely will kind of wait until Pope starts to leave, just to make it a little bit more awkward. Pope, you know, spending your whole life in servitude, that's not really any way to live. Don't you have any other dreams or aspirations? Haven't you ever wanted to be something other than a manservant?
When I was a younger man, I thought about such things, but the truth is there is a great deal that one can accomplish in being of assistance to someone as capable and remarkable as Dr. Noble. When I was a younger man, I thought for a while I might professionally take up the art of boxing, but I was not quite of the standard required, and I'm not really in the heavyweight class either. I could handle myself, but not every fight would go my way.
You know, Pope, at one point I thought you were a bit of a risk taker, but now I see that I was wrong.
Well, it depends on the type of risk, I suppose, Mom.
I suppose. Goodbye.
Very nice. We're good. Did any conditions get cleared?
I haven't even looked if I have any at the moment. Yeah, the only condition I have is the sapphire, so I'm guessing that does not get cleared by anything.
Well, I was hoping that
unless just like
because we were
talking
talking
about
about
Theodora, yeah.
kind of
Like,
developing a plan to go back against her, so she's against us.
that's what I thought you were doing too. So,
Okay,
I think
well,
if you
I'll
want
clear
to clear,
that.
that's fine.
I'm going to clear chestnuts from Sasha because who's even Sasha anymore?
Right, yeah, it's probably fair. It's fair. It probably would have cleared anyway, just on its own, but that's good. We'll take it. Fabulous. Okay. Mads or sorry, Dr. Noble or Sure Shot, any scenes you want to have?
So yeah, I wanted to do vulnerable move to introduce Pope to the child, and then line it up where she invites Sure Shot in for whiskey shots as fortification for meeting the child. So yeah, definitely want to line those up, and possibly the little scene that I had asked you about,
I'll need to be
With the-
reminded of it. Hold on.
the lockbox.
Give me a moment.
That's fine. That's fine.
Oh, I see. Here we go.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so let's have the scene with probably Pope makes the most sense, I guess. You would
Yeah.
probably show Pope before you would show Sure Shot, I would imagine.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, depending on when Miss Blakely decided to make her move,
That's a good
she's
point
going
too.
to
Yeah.
she's going to circumvent like him coming into the lab for the coffee service, and so she's going to be coming out of the lab and rubbing her hands because she has just used the unguents and the oils. Meeting you out in her room, Pope. And she has a very, like, she's very tense, very, there's a little bit of a wild look in her eye. She's very tense. And she will actually come up to you and have you put down the coffee service and take both of your hands in hers. And her hands are extremely freezing cold as she looks at you. I have done. I've done it. I didn't think I was going to be able to, but it's happened, and I wanted to introduce you.
You have, Mom. Is the child well?
I think so. Let's go in to the lab and I will show you. So she takes your hand, she takes your hands and leads you into the lab, and you're seeing the pattern, the framework that she had created, and it's actually dead looking now. I mean, like nothing's blinking, nothing's working. But in the opposite corner of the lab where it's in shadow, you see a large figure. It's basically Beryl Staves' size, and in the shadow you can sort of see it's like the handsome face and like a muscular body, wearing only like her shawl around its middle, and she keeps your hand in hers, and then with her other hand she says, Thomas, this is some. My own little joke. Some of many pots.
Well, he's remarkable, Mom. I take it is a he.
Yes. Yes, it is. As you are saying that, Thumb's eyes fly open and just blinks at you. So Thumb, this is Pope, wanted to introduce you.
Good morning, son.
Don't think Sum's like quite conscious, but it's like a slow thing where he's just looking at you and blinking. And then I usher you back into the into my room. And well, as you can see, he has need of some clothing. Can I send you out today and see if you can get some clothes? I guess he would be the same size as your acquaintance Barrel, I suppose. I mean, just being able to if he's able to come out someday, we could make sure that he's presentable. Yes. Oh, and I think definitely this is the time to introduce Mr. Stevens to my not so little secret. So if you could ask him to meet me here in my rooms, I will get the whiskey. I think this may require fortification a lot stronger than coffee this morning. So if you could do that for me this morning, today, that would be excellent, and I'd really appreciate it.
Certainly, Mom. I think you're right. It would be unwise to keep this a secret from him.
Yes.
I
He's
will attempt to prepare him for what he's about to see.
You don't have to tell him too much.
No.
I obviously should be the one to disclose what I've been doing. I just don't know how he's going to react.
I will reassure him, Mom, and make sure he's in a calm frame of mind when he comes.
You appreciate that, my friend. And this is where she will actually release your hand, and she will take your face in her hands, still freezing cold, and she will give you a kiss. I will go get the whiskey, and I will await Mr. Stevens.
I can bring the whiskey, Mom. You should please warm yourself. You have had a exerting evening.
To say the least. Oh. Believe it worked. I can't believe it worked.
I hope it brings you the peace that you seek.
That feels like a good cut. So eventually Sure Shot, I guess, is going to be meeting the child as well, correct? Under the with a fair amount of booze, it sounds like, as well. So yeah, what does that scene look like?
So I imagine that Hope has gone off to get the whiskey or, what have you, and brings it back after telling Sure Shot to meet me in my rooms. And I'm not sure if you're like still wearing off of what you've done for, the night before with Taggart and, drinking in the seedy bar. So she will meet you at her door and invite you in. Mr. Stevens, you're probably wondering why I've invited you here.
I mean, Pope said it was something important, so here I am.
Yes. I didn't want to have him disclose too much. I was afraid, well, I have some, well, you shared secrets with me before. Now it is my turn to share a very important secret with you. And I don't know how you're going to react. I respect you very much. And I consider you a friend. I don't know how you're going to think of me after this. So, in order to make this a little easier, I've provided a little bit of fortification. And this is where she shows you the tray with the whiskey bottle and 2 shot glasses.
Oh, all right, then I suppose. This doesn't seem quite like you, Dr. Noble. You sure you don't want to just tell me what's going on?
I really think this is cause for, well, since you don't know yet, let's just say I think you're going to need to keep your strength up. She pours
Well.
the whiskey, splashes it into the 2 shot glasses, hands you one, takes one herself. And as they say, correct? Bottoms up. Tosses
To
it
your
back.
health.
Salud. Ah. And then she takes your hands in hers, and again, still freezing cold. And this is my very important secret. There is someone I need to introduce you to. Come with me. And then she leads you into her lab. And you'll notice that first off, you're going to see the pattern, the apparatus on the wall. I mean, it's like, again, it's dead. There's no lights. There's no energy running through it, but you'll notice it there. And then she will direct your attention to the opposite corner, which is in shadow, and the very large figure standing there. Mr. Stevens, Hank, this is my
Yeah,
child.
I think as you turned him that direction and his eyes caught sight of movement, he drew the peacemaker, but at your words, he slowly puts it back in the holster.
Some will come out a little bit from the wall, from the shadows, and blink, but start to look a little bit not aggressive, but just, what is that? And I have you both stand down. It's all right, some. It's all right. This is my friend, Mr. Stevens.
Mr. Noble, kind of like tip my hat towards some.
Yes. So, this is what I've been doing in my lab. Some, you may go back and rest. And some steps back into the shadows, still blinking. The other reason I wanted to invite you here is because I do not need to make another. I have done what I've set out to do. And I need your help to dismantle this framework that I've created. I think it might do us both good. Leaving old patterns behind.
I reckon I can help you with that. Though, should he leave the room or will that disturb him?
think he'll be fine. It is of no direct harm to him. And so I think it's just part of the lab that we are making changes to. But again, I think this is the time to break down old patterns. And so we can
think-
start to take down the framework and break apart some of the apparatus.
Yeah, I think Sure Shot goes into the other room and comes back with like some tools and the whiskey bottle and the shot glasses, and he takes another shot. He's like, I guess let's get started then.
You both can clear the pattern, and Dr. Noble, you get to, or if you wish, Sure Shot, you can invite Dr. Noble to ask you a question about the past.
Yeah, if you have something in mind, but if there's nothing that you're thinking of, I'm happy to let the scene kind of rest where it is.
Hope had said that your past had caught up to you. Was that resolved satisfactorily?
It takes another shot. My past has caught up to me in a few ways. I think I have a better grip on it now, as far as that portion goes. And as for the Pinkerton, I don't think he'll be bothering any of us ever again.
Well, that's
Though he
good
might
news.
be the scourge of somebody back in America, but that's hardly my problem anymore.
Indeed. Well, I guess in different ways, the past will eventually catch up. I believe that for every action, there is an opposite and equal reaction. So I'm not sure what this consequence will be. And her eyes dart over to some. As you're taking down the pattern.
Good. Any more scenes that anyone wants before we dive into the mastermind threat?
Just a little bit that I wanted to do. So after Sure Shot helps Dr. Noble take down the pattern, and while Pope is out getting clothes for some, she writes a letter. And she puts together a little packet. She had sold the gold Anubis statue that she had. And she puts together the packet with the letter and then puts a little key in her pocket, makes her way down the lab passageway leading into the back secret passageway that she sort of knows about to the servants' quarters, and goes into Pope's room. And she finds his lockbox that she gave him a long time ago and uses her little key to open it. And she puts the letter and the packet in the box and puts it back where it was. And then leaves.
Fantastic. anything else before we dive into the mastermind threat? Okay, with all that said, it has been several days, number of days since the last events. Queen Victoria has been staying at Brathwaite Hall for several days as well, guest of Theodora Brathwaite. This is, of course, the talk of the town. And of course, everybody has an opinion on the appropriateness of Queen Victoria to be practically almost like taking an unscheduled vacation, sort of shirking her royal duties, as it were. And also because Theodora is kind of a notorious figure in the country. So there's a lot of chatter. But then there are people invited to join Theodora and the Queen at Brathwaite Hall. You all are among them. But also ministers, wealthy business people, admirals, generals, much of the elite of society, key members, are all being invited to Brathwaite Hall, in addition to Hargrave House. And on the day you are meant to travel to Hargrave House, or to Brathwaite Hall, there is a grand carriage waiting for you out front. It's not Theodora's carriage, though it is quite extravagant. It looks almost like something it almost looks like something from the 18th century, like Versailles or something, that sort of ornamentation, that level of ornamentation. And it's here to whisk you away to Brathwaite Hall. What do you all do?
Now, Pope, remember what I said about this whole Brathwaite situation? Just be on guard. Blakely just doesn't even look at Pope when she says that.
I'm sure Mr. Stevens and I will both be on full alert.
Yeah, I'd say that's about right. And I like push some gun bags into Pope's hands and pick up some more myself. You know, I hear there's hunting to be done out there. You up for a little hunting, Pope?
I must interject that the type of hunting that is done at Hargrave or at Brathwaite Hall may not be the type of hunting you're used to, or perhaps it is. Actually, I'm really not sure about you sometimes.
That's all right. I wasn't talking about their kind of hunting.
Oh, Mr. Stevens, and she pulls out the gun that she stole from him. I seem to have run out of bullets for this. Do you happen to have any extra?
Yeah, I was wondering where that got to.
Yes, I borrowed.
I was taking count, you see, and I got enough for all my fingers, and there was one missing. Yeah, I got more, but you can just take this one for now. And he produces another one already loaded.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much.
Dr. Noble has already packed the gift of Sure Shot's pistol that he gave for the holiday. And she packs a couple of books from the library for fun. And yeah, has already asked Sure Shot to give her some ammunition just in case.
Let's talk about rules. During the mastermind threat, there are no phases. And so any moves that are implicated by the phases we'll have to handle on an individual basis, but probably they mostly won't apply. There is only one dawn phase, or the equivalent of the dawn phase, and that is at the conclusion of the threat. Any moves that have to do with mastermind clues, that part is ignored because there are no more mastermind clues. And you can only bring 3 personal quarters items with you to Brathwaite Hall. Choose now. You can choose by highlighting them on the sheet. It's probably the easiest way to do it.
Did you say 3?
Yeah, 3. Once everyone's chosen their 3 items, you can load your things onto the carriage, and you realize that the carriage has a passenger already. This is a carpool over to Brathwaite Hall. The passenger is the man in the sun mask. He bids you all join him in his luxurious carriage. As you settle in, and the carriage begins trotting down the way, I'll mention that he's dressed like he's always dressed. He's still wearing his long sort of like dressing gown of yellow silk and the mask. Not smoking opium though. And he says, oh, go ahead.
I'm surprised to see you here. I didn't think that you actually left the opium den.
He says, I received the same invitation that you all did, and that many other people in the city have received. I suspect we are all being whisked away, called to Brathwaite Hall in order to witness Lady Brathwaite's great triumph.
I'm okay. I'm pretty sure that Blakely has never met this guy yet. Do you all know this masked fellow?
He is a receptacle of strange knowledge. That's the best way I think I can describe him.
He's the guy with the sun mask. That's the best way I can describe him.
Well, I've never heard of him, so he can't be that important.
Oh, Miss Blakely, I'm very important. Many years ago, when your followers were building the cathedral, of which I assume you do not speak very openly with your companions, I sold them the land.
And Blakely's just white and opens and closes her mouth like a fish a few times, not quite sure what to say.
Now, I think the important thing is we stay focused on the matter at hand. I know many things, but I don't know precisely what Lady Brathwaite is up to. But as we go, let me tell you a story about the history of this land that historians and folklore experts have managed to botch over the years. As it turns out, a young Arthur, before he was king, went to war with the Fey realm. They went to battle over a land called Annwn. You might recognize it as a paradise or the Christian heaven. It's the equivalent place. At the end of the battle, which ended in a stalemate, they came to an agreement. The Fae would get to keep Annwn, And in exchange, Arthur would be made king. And there would be kings and queens that would rule this land. That is the basis of monarchical power in these realms. Now, of course, the myths get all of this wrong. They have some of the details. There is no sword out of a stone, for example. In fact, it was a sword carving stone, the agreement, the mark. I'm sure you're all familiar with it.
And here you will notice now that the pattern which you thought you had rid yourself of is rendered beautifully behind the Man of the Sun mask in the carriage. You didn't notice it at first.
Arthur, as part of the agreement, after his reign, died and went to live for eternity in Anun. Of course, he was a willing hostage to the Fae, so that all agreements would be upheld. I fear Lady Brathwaite has discovered a way of getting access to the realm of Anun, perhaps using her mastery over the spectral realm, and perhaps something involving the presence of Queen Victoria at Brathwaite Hall. I sense it. I feel Anun returned to this land. I don't know what she's up to. I don't know what her ultimate plan is. I suspect we're all going to find out. But she must feel very, very close to victory indeed if she is bringing all of these people to Brathwaite Hall.
Why would she feel she needs an audience? That seems, well, not really her style, so to speak.
It is a mystery, Miss Blakely. But after we've settled in, I suspect we're going to learn more. We can reconvene then.
The carriage eventually arrives at Brathwaite Hall. As you pass through the gates, leading up to the manor, you see other carriages as well arriving. In what way can you, as a paint the scene, in what subtle way does this heavenly realm, Anun, which Theodora has apparently made contact with, how is it working itself into the land? How do you experience it? How is this more like a paradise?
Just as the carriage crosses the threshold, the clouds dissipate enough that sunlight shines through. Instead of an ever gray of England, it's just slightly more sunny. And Sure Shot feels his mask of man shift on his face.
Out of the window of the carriage, as it's pulling into the driveway of the estate, Pope thinks he glimpses through the window in amongst some trees. This kind of lean white dog with red tips on its ears.
When the door of the carriage opens, everybody in the carriage gets a whiff of morning dew. It's not morning, but the grass is green and glistening, and everything smells so very fresh and natural. Even outside of London, it's generally not this nice, but here it smells like this beautiful fresh morning.
As they get out of the carriage, Dr. Noble almost hears music. Actually, she doesn't hear it. She actually feels it. She can feel some sort of gentle thrumming inside. But then there's something a melody that creeps into her ears. And it's very beautiful. It's very tender. And it gives her a little bit of peace.
You can feel Anun working its magic on this land. You should know that Theodora Brathwaite is no fool. She's been planning for this moment for a very, very long time. She simply needed tools to make the rest of her plans fall into place. But she has been working at it for some time. This very land, in fact, is where Arthur and the Fae came to their arrangement. This is where the agreement was signed. This is where the sword marked the stone with that pesky, pesky symbol. And then she has been seeking a method by which to make contact. And I am most impressed that she has accomplished it. Perhaps we should just let her have her victory. Wouldn't it be wonderful if all of England were like this?
Well, if I may speak plainly, I don't really care that much about England. I don't want Brathwaite to win.
That is the sort of spirit that is going to save Queen and country, Miss Blakely. I worry, Dr. Noble, that you perhaps are a more romantic type, that perhaps Amun might work its way into you and you may find yourself succumbing to it.
Your mask still sees through all, does it?
Yes. But we all wear our masks, don't we, Sure Shot?
Leaning like this in the carriage. There's a reason these places were kept separate. We're going to want to make sure we keep them that way too.
Pope, are you comfortable? I imagine you don't often get to travel like this.
It's been some time since I left the city, yes.
Well, let's hope by the end we're all able to return.
I will do my best to ensure that, yes.
Everyone is very, you recognize some of the people who are kind of getting out of the carriages. They are lords and ladies, generals, admirals, wealthy people. Pretty much anyone you might want to call upon at a big society gathering, someone, either that person or someone connected to that person is here. Members of Parliament, cabinet ministers. It's quite a gathering. And as you're all sort of shuffled into the grand gallery of Brathwaite Hall, the butler Elmer is there greeting you all, ancient and twisted and old. And he says, Lady Brathwaite wishes to extend her hearty thanks for you joining her here at Brathwaite Hall. Someone says, "Where's the Queen? What about the Queen?" And Elmer just ignores that person. Now, if you'll please follow me, I'm going to have to ask you all to change your attire. This is a bit of a costume party.
Blakely leans over to the rest of Hargrave House and says, "Under no circumstances are you to take any beverages or drinks from that man. It will take him 3 hours to make it for you, and it will likely be poisoned."
Now, if everyone will please follow me. There's a whole bunch of people in here. And he turns and begins walking down the hall. Okay.
Butler,
Okay.
this costume party, is it themed?
He stops, turns very slowly. Yes, Miss Blakely, there is a theme, but I don't want to ruin the surprise. And he turns again.
Well, Dr. Noble, it seems we have a moment to look around.
And he
A moment, just a few moments. Oh my.
and we just have him very slowly and gingerly guiding this big group of people down this great hall to a room. And we'll take a 5-minute break and we'll pick up from there. Everyone is changing into costumes that look like they are from before Christendom or early Christendom. We're talking, like kind of medieval princess gowns. We're talking armor. I think there's someone putting on like a friar's robe. It's that sort of thing, right? And everyone's a little uncomfortable, a little weirded out, but they're all just like, "Oh, this is just Theodora Brathwaite being eccentric, so we'll just play along." And some people are kind of excited, like, "Ooh, this is exciting!" Like, this is not what we thought we were going to be doing this weekend, and all that kind of thing, right? Do you change? And if so, what does your medieval version of you look like?
Are there like other lords or ladies or whoever who refuse to change? Is that like
No, everyone's doing it
what's
because
going on?
they're all viewing it as like a fun thing. Like no
Mhm.
one else knows what you all know, right?
Right. I didn't know if any of them were just like, I couldn't possibly, and there was like a contingent of that.
No, everyone's being a good sport.
Yeah, I think Pope has like just a rough spun cloth tunic and one of those kind of hoods that comes down to here and goes over the shoulders, and then there's a hood, but he's wearing the hood down, maybe with little crenellations around the edge, like a castle, top of a castle wall.
That's good. Yeah, I like it. It's good.
Yeah, I think Sure Shot comes over and finds Pope changed, and he's got like a monk's habit on that's like oversized, and he's just wearing his normal clothes underneath it. He's just like, "This is pretty good, right? Is this what I'm supposed to look like? I saw this in picture books."
It seems as appropriate as anything else, yes.
And like under the robe, you can hear the gun coming in and out of the holster, but you can't see it. He's like, "I think it's still pretty good," but you just see like this ambiguous movement. What do you think?
Seems ideal for concealing a weapon, so yes, which may turn out to be useful before the end of the day, I don't doubt.
Dr. Noble has put on a long shift with one of those over panels, and then tied it together with some braided cord that she found. But she is still wearing her waistcoat And what she's done is she's used her scalpel to tear up a hole in the side of the costume. So this way she can reach the gun if she needs it.
Blakely is wearing this very long gown with a train and the very droopy sleeves. It's all extremely sheer silk, with the exception of sort of the sides, which are a little bit more covered, so that she could have a gun on her should she wish. But it does not leave anything. The parts that are not covered on the sides doesn't leave much to the imagination. There is some lacing down the front and the back, which is very strategically placed. But yeah, there's
Everyone is
this
scandalized
is
by
very
this.
scandalous.
Right, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. People are very, very scandalized by that. And if not for just the strange circumstances around of this whole scenario, probably it would be probably somebody would be like, expressing their outrage very vocally, right? But nevertheless,
Blakely's gonna Blakely.
People are very like, Eventually, Theodora joins you. She is wearing a sort of like a blue shift in her signature color, but definitely a very like almost like a kind of storybook princess kind of dress, right? Like, and big poofy sleeves, and her hair is done up in like these quite elaborate, this quite elaborate like kind of buns on her head. It's not up like normal. And she says, first of all, thank you all so much for coming here. I think we're going to have a very, very exciting weekend. And I want to thank you all for agreeing to this change of costume. I know it is probably very, very unusual, but we took great care to make sure there would be something that would fit everyone in attendance. It's important that we make this change because we have a special guest, a royal guest, and I don't want to shock him or disturb his sensibilities unnecessarily. It's important that we present ourselves in a way he will understand. He needs time, you see. He needs time to relearn what this world is all about. And everyone's very confused at this. And he says, now, if you all please follow me. And she takes you through the house. I was going to change my background too, and I forgot to. She takes you through the house, and she takes you to a set of stairs that are going down. And they're quite up. The stairs don't match the rest of it. They are roughly hewn. And the walls, as you're going down the staircase, are not adorned with anything. Like they're not like, it's not wood. It's nothing rich about it. It's just simple stone with torch sconces periodically. And everyone is very, very excited, a little scared. And the stairs led out into this large chamber. This large subterranean chamber. And at the far end of this chamber, there's a shaft of light. It's unclear where the shaft of light is coming from, but the shaft of light is illuminating a throne. And sitting atop the throne is a figure with a glowing yellow halo over their head. And the figure is dressed in very, very fine silk, like sort of robe. But the figure is a ghoul. It is a monstrosity. It is skeletal and withered. And it's wearing a crown that hangs awkwardly on its emaciated skull-like head, and it's just pawing at the air. Theodora says, I want you all to meet the first king of the Britons. I have managed to bring him back. This is legendary Arthur, and you all owe your allegiance to him. And everyone is like, what the fuck is going on? People are trying to leave, and Elmer has locked the door behind. Or someone has. I don't think Elmer got down the stairs that fast. Or maybe he did, and he's lying. He's not really as frail as he claims to be. But in any case, the door is locked behind you. And this ghoulish, zombie-like skeletal King Arthur sitting on this throne is just... And Theodora approaches him. She says, and we are in love. You are all here to witness our marriage. And she reaches out her hand to take his skeletal hand, withered and bony. She says, of course, he's not quite ready yet, but I suspect by tomorrow or perhaps the day after, everything will be all prepared. He'll be in fine constitution and form. Isn't that right, my love? And once the wedding is complete, you will all kneel before us as your king and queen. And she goes in to the skeletal Arthur as if for a kiss. And Arthur's just like, ah! It's like withery tongue, like sort of probes out. And she's just like, yes, yes. She stands up. So we have already started to establish our new dominion. You will get to experience that over the next few days. And once we have determined the time and place of the wedding, we will come find you and take you there. And a new age, a new era will begin. Until then, please enjoy the hospitality of Brathwaite Hall. And the doors are opened up. And you're all invited to go back and enjoy the hospitality of Brathwaite Hall.
Out of character question. The queen is here, yeah?
Theoretically, no one's seen her yet.
No one's seen her yet. Okay, so we're not all like, because I feel like if she is in this room with people, everyone's gonna turn and look at her
She's
and
not.
be like,
no, she's nowhere in
Okay.
there. Yeah, nowhere.
okay, just wanted to check on that. Miss Blakely is not going to leave right away. She's going to go up to Brathwaite.
Very good. Brathwaite has a big smile on her face.
Oh, my lady, congratulations on your upcoming marriage. Truly, truly, I have never seen a couple more happily situated.
She says, well, I accept your congratulations, Miss Blakely, and I thank you for your help. If Hargrave House hadn't loosened that ghost, I wouldn't have had the medium necessary to make contact with Anun, the realm our poor Arthur was being held hostage in.
Yes, and he does look quite enamored with you, which is just what you deserve, of course.
We're very in love, and she's holding his little skeletal hand in hers.
Well, I wish you both the very best. And she takes Brathwaite's, arms or shoulders and does the very overly familiar for English, but like very comfortable for a French kiss on each cheek. And then she goes to Arthur and hand on each of his shoulders and a kiss on each of his cheeks. Congratulations to you both. And Blakely just takes that as a thank you.
Everyone back topside is terrified, obviously. Everyone wants to know where the queen is. Everyone wants to leave, but the carriages have been sent away. Gates are locked, and Theodora has armed men at the gates to make sure no one leaves. They are going to witness the marriage.
They're like armed people everywhere, or just at the gate?
Just basically around the perimeter of Brathwaite Hall, like to leave Brathwaite Hall. She's determined to keep everyone there until they have witnessed the marriage.
I don't know why we're not just shooting this thing.
Is the man with the sun mask? Is the man with the sun mask anywhere nearby?
He is.
I turn, or Dr. Noble turns to him and says, "What on earth did we just watch?"
We have seen Lady Brathwaite's final move. She is ready to make it. And now it is very clear to me what must be done.
And this is the threat. The question is, where is the marriage going to take place? And further, how can we convince King Arthur to reaffirm his agreement with the Fey realm and return to Annwn? It's complexity 6. And it opens up the opportunity to interrupt the wedding and convince King Arthur to honor his agreement and return to Annwn as a hostage to the Fae. The man in the sun mask says,
The Fae are obviously too weak. That much is apparent by how easily you were able to dispatch Ms. Beaumont. They are not able to stop whatever is happening here. That means it's going to be on you all to stand in for them. You are almost like their solicitors in a sense. You must convince Arthur to honor his agreement.
He is not going to allow us to get near him, even having a remote inkling of this.
That is
Or
why
whatever
we must wait for the wedding ceremony. We must discover where it's going to be so that we can be in place when the time has come. So we can be in place to confront them.
Out of character question. Do we need to use the mastermind clues to answer these questions?
Yep. You're going to be searching for new clues.
New clues, that's what I thought. I just wanted to double check. Thanks.
Indeed, indeed. Searching for new clues in this Brathwaite Hall that has been suffused with energy of this sort of paradise Annwn. And so, there are some people who are saying, well, if it is King Arthur, we do owe our allegiance to him. I think this is a thing that is an idea that's starting to worm its way through the crowd a little bit.
I think Blakely overhears that and says to whoever she heard saying it, "Oh, don't be so foolish. Only your allegiance to somebody long dead? Goodness. They don't even know. How could he possibly know what's going on in England or any of the world? He'd be a terrible ruler. Just because he was king once doesn't mean he gets to be king again."
And someone says, I suppose Mrs. Brathwaite suspects she would be ruling by his side and help get him caught up to speed.
Yes, well, she does love her puppets.
Yeah, I think Sure Shot has discarded his costume and is in his American regalia, skulls and holsters and cowboy hat and all. He's like, I don't owe my allegiance to anyone, and I sure don't think any of y'all do, to a necromancing witch, pirate queen. Really?
And some people, perhaps out of curiosity, perhaps out of fear, perhaps out of just simple inability or lack of knowledge of how to handle the situation, go to their rooms to get settled in.
I think Blakely kind of heaves a huge sigh and then goes and stands up on the nearest chair or table or something so that she can be up above some people, if anybody who's still around, this crowd of people, can still see her. And she puts on her very best cult leader smile. Oh, my friends, my family, my fellow English patriots, do not be discouraged. There is no chance that Brathwaite and this skeleton could possibly usurp the throne of our dear queen. And I, Beryl Blakely, will be part of the group to ensure this will not happen. Look upon me. Do you see any fear in my eyes? No. All you see is hope and the knowledge that we will be strong together, all of us. Take heart from me.
And I don't need a roll or anything, but I like that speech. And I think that there are some people who will start to think that, yes, maybe we stay here so that we can help, or that we can see this madness finished. There's also a lot of chatter about, like, no matter what happens, we can't let this get out in the public. Nobody can know this is going on. Nobody would be able to comprehend it. And of course, there's a fair number of people who believe they're just having a nightmare and that none of this is real. But in any case, what do you
Hope will
all do?
raise a hearty sort of here. And where is the queen? We must protect the queen.
That's the thing that no one knows the answer to. I have a feeling Theodora has her squirreled away.
The noble has actually walked away and motioned to Pope. I think it's time we need to find out where this wedding is supposed to occur. And maybe stop it. Because this is not what anyone wanted to see at all. So she's heading back to the house to see if there's start somewhere, anywhere, just to kind of get some clues.
Yeah, just to put a kind of just to kind of capstone this whole introduction, Theodora has used the power of the St. James's Street Ghost and Queen Victoria to open up this sort of paradise realm that was the subject of a war between a young Arthur and the Fae. The realm, that war concluded with essentially the Fae getting control of the realm in exchange for Arthur to be the first in a line of kings and queens to rule the land. And at the end of his reign, he returned to this realm, Anun, essentially as a hostage, living in paradise, but a hostage. The Fae are too weak to hold up or to enforce their end of the agreement. And Theodora is capitalizing on that by essentially convincing Arthur to abandon the agreement and return. She, of course, just wants to be queen of the realm via him. and she probably has very, very grand plans for the world. But this land is the land where the agreement between the Fae and Arthur took place, which is why she purchased and built the house here. And that is what we know. And everything probably has symbolic and spiritual significance.
I think if Noble and Pope are kind of pairing off to go find these clues, I think Blakely, when she gets down off the table and everybody stops, congratulating her and telling her how beautiful she is and et cetera, I think that she's going to kind of pull Mr. Stevens aside and say, Mr. Stevens.
Yeah, I think he was watching the speech, and like anybody who tried to leave, he'd just like kind of step in front of him, so you had maximum effect.
Mr. Stevens, she says very quietly, you're an accomplished hunter. We need to use your hunting skills. We need to find out where the queen is. If something happens to her, well, it will definitely put a dampener on the spirits of people here. She does have her, what's the word for offspring? She does have her offspring, Prince Albert. I think Prince Albert is not here, hopefully. I mean, he is a bit of a partier, but hopefully he is not here.
You haven't noticed any member of the royal family yet in the house.
That was her husband. Edward. But his name wasn't Edward. Okay, well, anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, Albert was her husband.
Yes. Well, we should we should try and track her down. Now, I did mention hunting on these grounds. Theodora, my apologies, Mrs. Brathwaite, did mention that her daughter, Tatiana, does do a fair amount of hunting, and it is not animals that she hunts on the grounds. I can't imagine that Mrs. Brathwaite would be so crass to put the queen out in these hunting grounds, but it is something that we can't discard as a possibility.
She's got a corpse in her chair that she almost kissed. I wouldn't put anything past her at this point, but I gotta say, this is my kind of pirate queen.
Very well. So it sounds like everyone's sort of getting in place to begin the investigation. The wedding could be as early as tomorrow, but so just know that. And so with all that said, Dr. Noble, what's your first step?
Going into the house, seeing if there is any kind of portraiture on the walls that gives any indication of the land or the people that were here beforehand. And I'm actually going to, for fun, use Sir Richard's monocle to spot a hidden clue.
Oh, very good. How does that work exactly?
I don't know. I put it on and I spot a hidden clue.
See through disguise or spot a hidden clue. Oh, that's very good. Yeah, I like it.
So I mean, conceivably, she'll go the rounds with Pope, to look around at the pictures and like see if there's anything that
I love
she can spot wearing it.
I think that will inform the clue that I give you. But do make the information move. That'd be terrific.
Oh.
With sensitivity.
Been better. 8. Well, 10 with the +2.
Nice. Yeah. You said you were looking at like portraits and things hanging on the walls.
Mm-hmm.
There is a tapestry. There's a tapestry of a sort of medieval scene, Arthur and his knights and they are brandishing their swords and lances at something that without the monocle, you can't tell what it is. It looks like nothing. It's like they're just like brandishing their weapons at nothing, or something off screen of the tapestry, right? Maybe they even look like they are holding their swords aloft to the heavens. But when you put the monocle on, you see the rest of the tapestry. There is a gigantic black toad with 1,000 eyes that they are brandishing their weapons against. And that's your clue. The giant black toad with 1,000 eyes.
I tell Pope what I saw, and well, does this mean we need to find some sort of pond on these grounds? I mean, that seems outlandish. But and then she brandishes the monocle. It's like, this is amazing enough as it is. I have no explanation for it, and that concerns me. What do you make of it, Pope?
I believe I saw a pond on the way up the driveway on our way here, Mum. Perhaps that would be a good place to start looking.
Very practical. We can start there and see if there's any more indications. I don't know whether it would be a place where she would want to have this wedding, but if this is the land where the agreement was kept, we need to figure out a way to remind Arthur, if that truly is him, what he needs to be doing. And marrying Brathwaite is not it. So, let us away.
I agree, Mum. I've seen too many unusual things recently to doubt that what she's saying must have some element of truth to it.
Or she's trying to wrap everyone else up in her own delusions. But this is too important to ignore, especially with this kind of spectacle that she has created. So let us go and see this pond that you saw.
What are you up to, Sure Shot?
So I think Blakely and I were going to kind of take in the grounds and see if we couldn't find the queen or whatever. But actually, more on point with the question we're needing to answer. I think like strolling the grounds, Sure Shot's keeping an eye out for any area that looks like it's guarded besides the perimeter. And if there is, he wants to try and investigate that. Because that could be where the queen is, or where the marriage is supposed to take place. Or...
Yeah, absolutely. Take an information move.
Okay.
Probably with reason, I gather.
12, if that does anything different.
The 10's all we care about, but very good though. To get a free and clear clue. Let me go grab it real quick. Yeah. I don't know if you can give it meaning yet. But as you're walking the grounds, you step into this orchard. The sunlight in this orchard, it's radiant, and it feels much warmer than the season should allow for. And hanging from the branches are these incredibly plump yellow apples. They practically glow. They don't, but they seem like they do. And there's a woman there, a young woman. You might have saw her with the crowd. She seems to have wandered over here as well. And she picks one of the apples and she takes a bite of it. And she says, "It is incredible. It's the most delicious thing I've ever eaten. You should try it." To Sure Shot.
And is that the clue?
The clue is the orchard. Yeah, the orchard is the clue, but she's offering you this apple.
Oh, sure. Look at Blakely like, I don't know if we should try anything here.
Well, it's just an apple. I'm sure it couldn't be that harmful, but at the same time, it is Brathwaite. And I did warn you that her butler did try to poison me the very first time I was here.
The kid still looks all right.
She says, I mean, what if it really is King Arthur? I mean, that's something I don't know. It's exciting to think about. I mean, what if we are here on the precipice of a new age? What if he's returning to restore some sort of lost sense of chivalry or honor, or I don't know, the idea of a modern day Camelot? It's rather thrilling, don't you think?
And he's going to do that by coming back as a ghoul who marries a pirate queen.
She says, well, perhaps his current state is like a baby being born. Babies are quite ugly when they first cross their mother's threshold.
I'm sorry, what did you say your name was?
Oh, and then she introduces herself as Lady Tamara. I'll give her a name here.
I like making people come up with names. Sorry.
Tamara Winchester. She is. She's just her father is some sort of probably a member of parliament or something.
Well, my dear Tamara, no honorifics at all. I really do need you to understand that most monarchs are raised to be the rulers that they are. They are used to the society they live in. They are comfortable with the laws of the age. A skeleton who has been underground for who knows how long. Well, I can't imagine that would make a very effective ruler.
And she says, and she bites the apple again. And she says, and yet this apple is very delicious. Imagine.
Oh, for goodness sake, fine. And Blakely is going to take the apple right out of her hands and take a bite, not from the spot she was biting on, but like turn the apple around and bite into the other part of it.
Yeah, it is very delicious.
Yes, it's so good. What a wonderful apple.
Perhaps this apple is a symbol of what is to come.
Perhaps your foolishness is a symbol of what's to come. Shershot like storms off.
Indeed.
Blakely drops the apple. Farewell, and follows Mr. Stevens.
Pope, what are you up to?
I think Dr. Noble and I are going to head out and take a look at see if we can find the pond or lake.
Indeed.
The lady in it.
So you're walking another part of the grounds. Very good. Yeah, that's good. Make the information move. Probably reason here.
Reason 0, so a flat roll. 9.
Very nice. You're walking for a time, and I would like for the two of you to tell me just how this place feels. So it feels like more alive than a place should feel. How do you experience that?
I think there's a quality of the light it's shining, and the air is kind of full of floating dandelion seeds. That, you know, it looks like everything is kind of shedding, everything's spawning or sporing at once. You know, the air is full of these little floating motes.
If you were to reach your hand down into the dirt and the soil and pull up a handful of it, you would see various types of like worms and earthworms and insects and other things that thrive in healthy soil.
You felt it when the child was coming to life and the electricity was running current underneath and above the skin. And it's the same type of feeling now with no visible current. But she can feel it within and without, like some sort of energy just coursing through the air and around her that she can feel on and in her skin. And she's, her hands were still cold, but now they start feeling like they're warming up, as if getting more sun on them and more, like putting them near fire.
You come upon, oh, sorry, go ahead.
There's not a rock in this place that doesn't have some kind of growth on it, moss or lichen or something, but even more of it is actually stuck to the ground from all of the growth from the ground, or splitting as something roots up in a crack.
You do find the lake. It just, you practically stumble on it. It's a good-sized lake, and yet you just sort of turn around a stand of trees, and there it is. And there is a little island in the middle of the lake. And that little island has a single strong shaft of sunlight illuminating it. When you see it, that's your clue. And Pope, across the way, down on another side of the lake, you overhear laughter and a voice that you recognize. It's Kip.
That boy, I told him not to come here.
Kip is with someone, a girl or a woman, perhaps, young though, and you can't quite make them out because of the trees, but you can hear them laughing and carrying on. What do you do?
Just a moment, Dr. Noble. And Pope strides over to see what's going on with Kip.
You see Kip, dressed as he always is, you know, sort of just like in his rags. No, not in his rags. I take that back. She's been dressed like he's been put in like very, very fine clothes. a simple tunic of silk tied with a little gold rope around his waist. And you see a young woman who I don't think you would recognize. And she's dressed in armor with vestments over it. And they're kind of like just laughing and kind of they just shared some sort of wonderful joke right when you sort of come upon them. What do you do?
Kip, how do you come to be here?
He says, Mr. Pope. And he actually runs up and gives you a hug. And he smells good, unlike normal.
I thought I warned you against coming to this place, Kip.
He says,
how did you get here?
I know you said not to come, but and then the young woman in the armor gets up and she says, I'm very sorry, that was my fault. She says, I'm Theodora Brathwaite. And she goes to shake your hand.
Miss Brathwaite, my name is Pope.
Yes, I know. She says, Kip and I have been getting along splendidly, haven't we, Kip? And she puts her arm around him. We're having the most wonderful time, and I suspect we're going to keep having a very, very peaceful and wonderful time. Isn't that right, Kip? And Kip says, yes, this place is wonderful. I love it here.
You should know that Kip is a young gentleman of some importance to me, miss. I would hate to think that any harm would befall him.
She's like, oh, no harm is going to come of young Kip. Don't you worry, Pope. That's especially the case if you and your colleagues at Hargrave House stay in your lane. Keep your hands to yourselves.
If that's what you want, it seems most strange that we should be invited here to witness whatever this is.
Oh, this is a moment of triumph for my mother, I assure you. She is very, very happy to show the world what she's been up to. And I think for her, it's a little bit like, well, it's like victory is sweeter when you've bested a worthy foe, right?
So much for your mother. How do you feel about this?
And she says, oh, I just do as she tells me. So long as she keeps me in fine clothes and whiskey, I don't complain too much. Although I have to admit, the changes around here as of late are not necessarily to my taste.
And you think that will continue in your mother's brave new world? What's your place in that?
She's like, I suppose I'll be a princess.
With a skeletal monstrosity for a father.
She's like, it will be the only father I've ever known. Because you recall, Tatiana is adopted. She's not Theodora's actual child, or not biological child. Meanwhile, oh, sorry,
there can be worse fathers than no father at all.
And I think Kip has just been kind of like, he doesn't really know what's going on. And he says, we were going to row out to that little island, Mr. Pope. Tatiana or Miss Brathwaite was going to show me how to use a sword. Tatiana says, I think we can wait for that, Kip. We have plenty of time.
Would that island happen to be of special significance in your mother's ceremony?
And Tatiana says, remember what I said. Keep your hands to yourself, Mr. Pope. Come along, Kip. And she brings Kip with her. And yes, I'm going to change my background as well. Let's get a new background. I pulled up a English manor of my own. Good. Let's take a 5-minute break. So, Dr. Noble, were you with Pope during that, or were you doing something else?
I was actually waiting by the lakeside
Okay, good.
as he went to go approach Kip and I guess Tati.
Tatiana.
And I was actually contemplating the island from where I was standing.
Yeah, I think without going over to the island, there's not much more to know, but
Okay.
there might be a little boat if you want to go.
I was considering it, but then I was thinking, because I'm all over the damn place, going back to the house. I'm trying to call up Old Bones.
Old Bones would be quite a thing to do here, I think.
Yes. So
Indeed. Meanwhile, Sure Shot, what are you up to?
Continuing around the grounds. Is there any spot that's guarded, or have we made the full rounds and there's nothing of that sort?
Sorry, I was just putting the last clue, or putting the third clue in there. What was the question again, David? Sorry.
So continuing the circuit around the grounds, looking to see if there was any spot that was guarded or anything like that. If there's not, that's kind
So
of
here's
what I
the
was
funny
wondering.
thing. That has kind of fallen away. You don't see the gate that you came in through, and you don't see the typical signs of like on the way in, you probably would have seen like, there probably been like a village, or would have been like maybe a chapel or something, just like, signs of life. It actually looks very, very pastoral, all around. And this, whatever Theodora has summoned here, is just gradually working its way on the place, right? So with all that said, what do you do?
Okay, well, if there's nowhere out here that looks like it's under special protection, I'll quickly go into the house and see if there's anywhere in there that looks like it's under special protection.
So the thing about being inside the house is that like she does have a lot of guests, right? And they're kind of like roaming around everywhere, and all this stuff is kind of going on. And there is a lot of chatter about the queen. Where is the queen? Where is the queen? Right? That's a thing that people want to know about. And go ahead and do the information move. Just tell me how you're sort of like trying to suss this out.
I'm trying to see if there's any place that's restricted. Like, is there anywhere that I try and get to and somebody's like, sorry?
Yeah, roll information move with reason.
Okay. 8.
You're roaming around, and it's a big, big house. And you eventually find yourself on a second story, in a second story hallway, quite a ways away from where people have been kind of gathering. The hall is just barely lit by a large sort of like window, or the sort of, like this big window that kind of looks down to the bottom floor, and then that light coming from that window is illuminating this little passageway. And you see someone coming out of a room. Person coming out of the room. I have to grab a name. I know where their name is. I just have to find it quick. the woman coming out of this room looks like a nurse. She's dressed like a nurse, modern day nurse. But like she has a little like, kind of head, kind of wrap thing, and, kind of dress with like a white apron. And she says, "Oh, excuse me. Sorry." She's American. She's American as well, based off her accent.
No problem. Huh, funny to meet somebody else.
She's like, "Oh, you're American."
Yeah.
It's nice.
Can I go in there?
No, you cannot. The queen has taken ill. She's not in a good way. It's actually very, very lucky that I was in the city and they sent for me. I'm Clara Barton. And she goes to shake your hand.
Ms. Barton. And I shake her hand too. That's what I was trying to see. I'm supposed to be in there too. And like I'll pull out that sapphire bauble and like flash it to her. Trust me, it's all on the up and up.
She says, I'm going to give you a day move on that in a moment, but I do owe you a clue, actually. She says, what was your name again, sir?
Mr. Stevens.
Oh, Mr. Stevens. Well, Mr. Stevens, the queen is ill, and I think that her handlers have made it very clear they don't want anyone to go in to disturb her while she recovers. You say that you are entitled to be in there for some reason?
Yeah, you might say I was sent. And
in case you're worried, he's not going in unaccompanied. A lone gentleman visiting the queen, that would just be absolutely ridiculous. I Miss Blakely is who I am, and I'm also supposed to be in there as well. I'm sure you've heard of me.
She says, "Well, this is all very, very unusual." And while this conversation is going on, you will notice, Mr. Stevens, that there is another woman coming out of the room, but they make a right down a side hallway. And this woman is wearing a purple shroud over their whole body, almost ghost-like, as they come out of the room behind Clara Barton's back and go down a side hall. That's actually your clue. And I think with Miss Blakely's help, Clara will probably be like, "All right, but I mean, just you can't tell anyone that I let you in." She says, "I must confess, everything here is very, very strange. I don't know what's going on, but it's awfully lucky that I was in the city fundraising for, well, a little project I'm starting back home. But she says, the queen is not in a good way."
That I can understand. And all too true what you say about strange goings on around here. I mean, goodness, that veil was like something out of a costume party that person just passed by in.
She says, and she's like, what veil? What do you mean? I'm sorry.
You must have missed it. A lot going on.
And she's a little concerned now, and she goes for the door. And
Oh, my dearest, my dear, you did say that, and I understand that you were worried, and I am so sorry that you were worried, but you will not get in trouble. We are supposed to be here, so you don't have anything to worry about there. And I think as Blakely is talking to to Clara, she's kind of like eyeballing Mr. Stevens, like, go in, come on, get it going. But you see, my dear, you're going to be in no trouble whatsoever. I know this is all very frightening, but you did mention that you were raising money for some sort of project, a charity even?
yes,
Do tell me all about it. I want to hear everything.
She says, "Oh, well, it's called the Red Cross." And she begins telling you about her idea for the Red Cross.
And Blakely is just like total fake listening, like not listening for real. Just, oh, amazing, that sort of thing, in a way to distract Clara so that Sure Shot can do his thing.
Inside, there is a bed, presumably where Queen Victoria was sleeping, but she's not in there.
Mm. Okay. Yeah, so I think as soon as I open it and see that, and it's just like a small room, right? Like there's no like additional rooms.
No, yeah, it's just a single room. There might be like a door with like some sort of like closet or something, but like otherwise it's just a simple room it's very tastefully appointed. It's a nice room. But.
Yeah, I don't even think I like go all the way in. I think I just look in and then close the door and say, well, that's all I needed to see. Thank you, ma'am. That Red Cross sounds like a fine idea. And then I proceed after the veiled figure.
She's like, yes. Well, I had the idea during our Civil War, if you recall. And she's kind of telling me like about her idea.
So wonderful. That we'll be in touch. And Blakely just sort of waves and follows Sure Shot.
The complication, though, is that the Queen is now roaming around with a purple shroud over her body. I don't know what's going on. And so back to Dr. Noble. Dr. Noble, what are you doing? Where are you at? And Pope, where are you at as well? What's going on?
I think by this time, she's already started heading back to the house.
It is getting ready to be dinner. Dinner's fairly early in the day, so just FYI.
Yeah.
Basically, sundown is when dinner is.
Right. So just heading back to the house and then just kind of contemplating what we've seen so far, like what we've seen so far with the black toad and the small island, and not sure how close the mealtime is, but I still want to go. So sorry, Pope. Go back to the house and then see if I can feel around for a ghost.
Ghost, Mom? What makes you think?
Seems to be something having to do with a place having lots of history, and like the ballet, I think this place might have things to tell us as well. As long as we can, I guess, open up the proper channels, if that makes sense. I don't feel like I am making any sense right now, but then again, none of this has made any rationale or any kind of
I was about to say, Mom, it's very peculiar.
We are far beyond just the simple oddity of cases now. What is intuition but rational thought going at quantum speeds? And I think I'm following that right now. Let us go back to the house, see if we can wander the halls, and then see what we can pick up from there before dinner.
I'll give you a little bit more lay of the land. So most of the rooms are just sort of, I mean, there are like common areas, there are sitting rooms, there are salons. There is a sort of sub-level where like servants and things and storage, food storage, and the kitchen is all at. The upper level is the bedrooms and things like that. There's probably on the ground floor also like a library. It has all the sorts of things you might imagine could be found in a great big old English country house. There are 2 gardens. They're quite large and lovely and well manicured. And of course, you have seen the lake and some of the other parts of the grounds. So that is sort of the a simple lay of what's going on.
She'd probably head over to the library, a place that she feels very at home in, and then see if she can call up old bones from there.
I love it. Sounds good. Pope, what are you doing?
I think it might make sense for me to skip the meal and see if I can investigate the grounds, or not the grounds, but the inside of the house, and maybe
While everyone's at the meal.
Yeah, exactly.
That makes sense. Yeah.
See if I can make contact with some of the staff, perhaps.
That sounds good. Let's have Dr. Noble see in the library, and then we'll probably just fast forward to the meal at that point. So Dr. Noble, you're trying to get Old Bones going. Tell me how you're getting in tune with the architectural details of this place.
So I find the library, and I see that, I mean, given the size of this place, it's it is probably her dream. It's wall to wall, ceiling to floor shelving of all these books that may or may not have been read, but they just line the walls. And then opposite the door is this grand, like French door setup, like double doors, like looking out onto one of the gardens. And it's like all libraries, usually like a very long room. So again, just like this shelving of books. So she's kind of taken aback, and so she goes along the wall and just starts to trace her hand across the shelves, and looks at the ornate shelving. It's actually not, I mean, again, big ass house. So, expecting it to be very full of like, carving and that sort of thing. And then the walls have what walls there are aside from shelves, they're like lined in this like velvety wallpaper, just very ornate. And she's just taking it all in, and then she's just opening up Cosmic Passage and then using Old Bones.
Go ahead and roll.
What is it again? I'm sorry, sensitivity again?
It is sensitivity. Yeah, let's take a look at the move. Yeah, sensitivity.
Okay. I'm getting all the good rolls out now because it's gonna be fucked up later. Sorry. 9 + 2 is 11.
There is a large trophy of a deer's head hanging over the fireplace in the library. And as soon as your eyes make contact or lock with its eyes, you hear the click, clack of hooves on the fine marble tile of the library. And you see a magnificent stag standing in the middle of the library. Many points on its rack of antlers. You get to ask it a question or have it do a task for you.
Oh.
We'll cut briefly.
My.
Sure shot. What are you doing after your, I think like as you two are like leaving the area where the queen is, you hear Clara Barton scream because the queen is missing, right? But just in the distance, right?
Mm-hmm. I think that woman was the queen. Do you see her anywhere? She can't be that hard to spot.
I mean, I just saw a person in a purple thing leaving. I'm not the hunter here.
Oh, just keep your eyes open then. I'm just kind of like moving quickly in that direction that the figure went.
Yeah. I don't think you're going to catch up with the figure. You'll twist down this hallway. It's getting to be turning into more of a sort of Victorian ghost story by the minute, and you don't see anything. You just see dimly lit halls and dusty furniture. Looks like Elmer doesn't make it up here very often. and no woman in a purple shroud.
Oh goodness. Stop. This is a fruitless endeavor. If this is indeed some sort of magical realm that this manor is built upon, then we should be able to tap into its magic, should we not? And I think Blakely's going to take out the golden ivory hand mirror that she has in her personal quarters that she brought with her, and she's going to hold it out and say, mirror. I wanted to think of like a mirror, mirror on the wall thing, but I cannot think of a single thing.
I like the
can't get one.
directness of just saying mirror.
Yeah, I wanted to do a rhyme, but I could not think of one. Mirror, please show us where the queen is.
Very intriguing. Because of the magic of the place, I will let you do this. It'd be an information move with sensitivity. Let's see how it goes.
Information.
That's never gonna work. You're losing your mind. I think the apple had something in it after all.
Listen, don't. Shh, I'm listening to the mirror. Quiet you. Okay, that is a 10.
You do see the woman in the purple shroud in the mirror.
Look, in the mirror, look.
What?
She is standing by a rock that is not in the room. It's in the mirror though. And she kneels down by the rock, and her hand, draped with purple fabric, is tracing the pattern carved into the rock. It is the pattern. And if you didn't have that condition, you're both taking it now.
I already have it.
And then the purple shrouded woman looks up at you and she says,
An agreement was made. It must be honored. It must be reaffirmed.
and then disappears from the mirror. But that is your clue, the rock with the symbol carved on it. Strange pattern carved on it. It is dinner time as we wrap up our session. Everyone is being gathered into the grand dining room, which has been rearranged so that it looks like sort of one of those medieval situations where it's just tables along the sides, like along three sides, you know, and with like area in the middle for entertainment and things. And as a paint the scene, everyone please describe, there's lots of fabulous food and drink. And everyone please describe an unusual dish that might have been found in medieval times. You don't have to, it doesn't have to be real, just come up with something very strange, like, you know, blackbirds in a pie, that kind of thing, right?
Damn, that's exactly what I was just going to say.
Sorry. Something along those lines would be great, though.
There's a specific kind of dish. It is, of course, because of the grand party that is here. It is bigger, much, much bigger than a regular pie. It is essentially made in a humongous Dutch oven with a golden crust, just steaming full of eels. But what they've done with the crust is they've interspersed the pastry as well as the eel meat to create this kind of fantastical diorama on top of the pie.
There's an entire roast boar, bigger than a pig, that's, you know, bound and trussed and has a golden colored very unusual looking apple in its mouth.
There is a dessert, and the main ingredient is passion fruit, which not anywhere located in any sort of medieval European society, but baked within the passion fruit, because it's like a baked roasted braised, I don't know, I don't cook, kind of dish, and cooked within it is bits of crocodile.
There is off like on a side table of its own is a like architecturally like correct London Bridge cake that anybody who like approaches it, the like attending baker or cook or whatever you want to call them, like as they reach for it, they like promptly like push a plate of something else into their hand, like don't touch it.
Very good. Dr. Noble, you are being summoned to dinner in the middle of your audience with the stag. You can call upon the stag whenever, but if you want to ask the question now, you certainly can.
Is there anything we can do to convince Arthur to keep the bargain?
And the stag opens its mouth and begins. You see something moving through its throat. The flesh is ballooning out as it and out of its throat it deposits an egg. The egg is very unusual indeed. It has a shimmer. It has a strange, almost like, it's almost like as you turn it around in the light, it like refracts the light in strange ways. But you are being called to dinner. But that is your clue.
He snatches up the egg, pockets it, and brings and goes to dinner.
Indeed. Back at the dinner, Theodora is holding forth, at the sort of center of the main table. And there are contests and entertainments taking place in front of dinner. Tatiana is sword dueling some of the other young men and besting them handily. And Kip is like her little squire, sort of doing squire duty for Tati. And everyone's sort of chattering, and you hear people have started to like forget the horror of the beginning of the day, and they're kind of really into this, they're sort of being charmed by this old sort of way, right? And Theodora makes a speech. She says, "I know I am not the only person among us who believes that in our race for industry, in our attempt to modernize, industrialize, that we have lost something fundamental about ourselves. We have lost something of who we used to be," which is very strange for her to say because she's from Barbuda, but never mind. Who we used to be. I believe we can have Camelot again. And I aim to convince you all of the truth of that before this weekend is finished. And I'm here to tell you, we are making wonderful progress. And she says, I didn't think it was quite time for him to do any sort of entertaining, but he insisted. And there's a back door being opened. They're wheeling King Arthur out in a wheelchair. Except now there's muscle tissue on the bones. No skin yet, all muscle, gums and teeth, sinew, eyeballs. And they roll him forward, this crown on his head. And she pours him a glass of wine, a goblet, and she puts it in his hand, and he's trying to grasp it, and he keeps dropping it and spilling it. And they keep picking up the chalice again and pouring it again. And eventually she wraps his fingers around it so that he can hold it. And she's like, your king offers a toast to you all. And this muscly, sinewy, tendony king with his eyeballs with no lids just rolling around in sockets and teeth bared raises his chalice and just says, and we'll end the session there. Let's go to stars and wishes. There's no dawn phase until the threat's over. Where would like to go first? Take it away.
Star for the whole zombie King Arthur Avalon thing. I'm really enjoying that that concept. And I don't know, big star as always for Mads and Dr. Noble, who is always, you know, kind of fascinatingly interesting character in the way, you know, what's going through her mind with this whole process with the child, and like how does that seem like a great plan, but she sells it really well. And big star for Amanda and the attempted seduction of Pope. That was hilarious. I don't know. Yeah, go ahead. I'll come back to.
I'll say, yeah, thank you, stars for you, Rob, for I sprung that on you. I was thinking for a while about what a vulnerable scene between Miss Blakely and Pope would look like, and that's the only thing I could possibly think of that would be in one part vulnerable and one part really gonna dig into Dr. Noble. And so thank you for going along with it. Stars for Mads and David for I really liked the scene where Sure Shot was introduced to some. It was just everybody was on point with their characters, and it was I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know how anyone was going to react. It was really, really good. Another star for David for showing up at this big Arthurian mystery and being like, yeah, I'm gonna shoot everything. It'll be fine. I really like that sort of aspect. This whole Arthurian legend mystery is wonderful. So stars for Jason for that. It's so exciting. I have no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah, I'd say stars for the threat. Loving it. I love the characterization of Arthur in his changing state. He is truly the victim of all of this. Oh my gosh. It's rough. It's rough on the ancient now being resurrected King of England. It's good though. I love it. It feels like the right kind of conclusion to our Shadow Society, like season 1. So it's like, all right, I'm getting ideas. Like, okay, there's fairy stuff going on, there's magic stuff going on. There's still like just enough, like we're still just going to be so polite about this because that's just the way we are, and ignore the horror of this that's going on. And I think that feels like on brand. So that's great. I love the scene with Kip and Pope. That felt really good. And like, again, like this, like a very like restrained kind of arm's length conversation about the horror and transformation that's happening here. It's just amazing. The Rob and Amanda scene with the vulnerable move was really, really good. And then Dr. Noble introducing several of us to some was excellent.
Yeah, I really enjoyed I enjoyed all the beginning scenes just because it felt like a good well, it's actually really interesting. The stuff with Some was super interesting because I knew what Theodora was up to, and so it was kind of like an interesting like bookend of like what what Theodora is doing, right? Except Theodora is using really, really old magic, right, to do it as opposed to science. And but yeah, I had a good time. I liked I was going for like a really particular tone here and a really particular vibe on this threat, which is a sort of like full daylight horror, a kind of I was kind of going for this idea of like nostalgia and like sort of revanchism and like, pining for like the old days, except this is like pining for the really old days, right? And like playing with this idea of like, industrialization and sort of getting away from that. So I was kind of like playing with all these ideas, and I just wanted to have this like really particular kind of horror feel to it. And I was enjoying it. I feel like I was getting the right reactions. So that made me happy. And yeah, I thought everyone did a great job. My wishes, I'm just really curious to see what your solution is to the question. So yeah, which is kind of a 2-part question, but yeah, kind of fun to see.
My wish is I'm curious to see if Miss Blakely or someone can turn Tatiana against her mother.
I think my wish is
sorry.
for Sure Shot to go out as a part of this solution. I have an idea of maybe how that can happen, but
that's another
we'll
wish of mine, because I think we're going to be losing at least 3 characters at the end of this, right? So I'll be curious to see how that shakes out for sure. Mads, did you start with wishes? I can't remember.
Yeah, I mean, my God. Well, you were going for the tone of daylight horror, and I totally felt it. I meant it when I said it's like if I wasn't terrified before, I'm terrified now, because this was I was not expecting this at all. And every like just the build up to it. I mean, the carriage ride with the man in the sun mask, which was definitely a nice but like, oh shit, surprise. And then all of our scenes at the house, and with definitely like freaking zombie ghoul King Arthur. What the hell? Yeah, I mean, Dr. Noble's like rational mind is having some serious gymnastics right now, trying to go with this stuff. And lovely scene there, Amanda, trying to seduce Bob. Holy shit. I was ready to die as soon as you suggested, and then like I tried to hold it
Your
over.
face! Oh my God, your face!
I'm not holding anything back, because it was just like, shit, she's gonna
What
do
if Pope
it.
had done it? That would have been interesting, right?
That would have made me. I would have
it
been out the door.
It never actually occurred to me that he would. So I don't know.
Regardless, I mean, it was just perfect. I
It
mean,
would have been hilarious, but there's just kind of no way he would, in Dr. Noble's state, there was like no way he would be that irresponsible.
but I mean, and that was brilliant too. Like, saying it's like kind of like, basing it on the betting part, which I mean, again, it's like, that's his Achilles heel. So it's like, it's perfect. It's
Yeah,
actually very perfect.
Star for working that vice in.
Yeah, that was good.
Amanda, that was really good. I thought that was clever. So.
But yeah. And then oh my gosh. Every time we go through these things, I mean, I'm trying to remember all the different scenes that were just, okay, this was like horrifically but wonderfully amusing or wow. And yeah, I mean, I can't wait to see how we try to resolve this. Yeah, and as Jason has already seen, and I don't know if you guys have checked the hunter sheet, but yeah, Dr. Noble has a custom move. So
yeah, I think we're going to lose probably at least 3 characters and maybe Miss Blakely too. I don't know Miss Blakely, but I'll be very curious to see like what that transition is like too once we're done with Theodora, like how, what we've, because I've already kind of like set the table a little bit with Admiral Flag, right? Like last time. So but that'll be kind of interesting to see for sure. So I want to see how these characters go out, kind of fun. So.
Yeah, Miss Blakely would be an interesting one to kind of be the transitional character if we do bring new ones in, But,
yeah.
Would Miss Blakely be a good like? Oh, hello, new Hargrave House people.
Yeah.
My new wish is to see this. I don't want to spoil anything, but I'm reading this move that is in the Mother playbook now, and it is outstanding, and I cannot wait to see that. I know we were talking about this off recording with Shudder releasing that folk horror thing, and then Jason, you in the Fear of a Black Dragon podcast were talking about folk horror, and then in the Gauntlet publishing Discord we were talking about folk horror. So
folk horror's having a minute. Yeah.
So I'm really feeling this because of all those conversations. I've just been kind of having like folk horror on in the background while I do stuff all the time, so I am really feeling all of this, and I can't wait to see what happens.
And also, I really like. Oh, sorry.
I don't know what I'm gonna do when these characters go out. I'm gonna be like legit upset.
I feel like sorry, go ahead. I feel like if Theodora does not end up like being burned in a wicker effigy of something at the end of this, I don't know, like I feel like we're leading towards that kind of ending, right? Or someone like wearing a bunch of
burning somebody in a bear.
Theodora, right? Exactly. Theodora and a bunch of blue flowers, right?
No. We need to go Nick Cage Wicker Man on this.
No, not the bees. Not the bees. No. But what I really enjoyed about this was the fact that it is daylight horror. I mean, there's not enough of it, I mean, like, yeah, you can have like the creepy, foggy, darkness, but I mean, when it comes to something like this, when it is presented as a paradise in the making and daylight and just positive energy, positive energy, I mean, it just makes it that much more creepy, I think, to me.
Yeah, I'm glad that came across because what I was going for was like the opposite of what we normally do. Like when you're in London, it's the horrors at night, right? It's about the nighttime, it's about the night phase, it's about the darkness, it's about the Jack the Ripper vibes, right? Like that's what it is. And so since we're not in London, since we don't have the phases, I wanted to go for like this different feel, this daylight horror feel, like something pleasant being scary, just all that stuff. So I'm glad that kind of came through.
That whole kind of fae horror vibe works really well in that way. It's wonderful, but at the same time sinister.
Fabulous. Anything else before we go? Okay. Well, I should look very excited about the conclusion of the Mastermind Threat and season 1 next week. So let's meet back next week. We'll go and stop the recording.